This is Bradley Chiropractic Nutrition Center podcast number 2. Today we're going to talk about stress, what stress is, how do we measure it, what does it do to the body, and how do we combat it, or how do we treat stress, how do we help if somebody's body is overstressed. So let's start with talking about a man by the name of Dr. Hans Seiler. He's really the father of our modern understanding of stress and its effects on our body, or the mind-body connection between stress. He was an Austrian-born physician and endocrinologist. He came up with what was called the general adaptation syndrome. And what Dr. Seiler talked about was there were 3 responses to stress. The first was called the alarm stage, what we call the fight or flight syndrome. Our bodies were designed to be able to utilize the system for dangerous situations or situations in which we have to basically fight or flight, either put up a fight and save your life or get the heck out of there. So to give an example, if a house was burning down and a mother or father had children in the house and they had to run in there, if they kick in this alarm stage, this fight or flight system, it really gives them those superhuman strengths, the ability to do things that we normally can't do. Perhaps, open doors that you wouldn't be able to open, or throw off heavy objects to get to their children to save them their lives. And the reason a person can do this when their body has kicked in this alarm stage is the hormones that are released allow more blood to go to the muscles, allow cortisol to increase, allow the blood rate to increase, and all these things basically decrease any pain or inflammation you may feel, and just give your body the ability to really do things that it normally can't do. So like I said, this is a part of our body that is designed there to protect us. So in a healthy, normal situation, when we utilize this system, we go through this massive increase in stress, we respond to the emergency at hand, and then if we're healthy and we live the way we should, and we can get out of that stressful situation, our hormonal levels go back to normal, our cortisol will go back to normal, and our body will go back to homeostasis or balance. However, that doesn't always happen in today's society. So the second stage of Hans Seiler's general adaptation syndrome, or what we call GAS, is the resistance stage. And this is when the body is trying to heal from the effects of the alarm stage. Also a normal thing that should happen. And this allows the body to put all the extra energy that it normally uses into healing. So it puts energy into healing the damaged tissues, restoring heart rate, restoring digestion, restoring things to normal. And if we are healthy, once again, that resistance stage is how our body uses its natural resources to get back to normal. In other words, to combat the stage 1 or the alarm stage. Now, the third stage is what we call the exhaustion stage. And this is where we run into problems. And this is where a lot of people, unfortunately, are in today's society. And so what happens in the exhaustion stage is our body had been exposed to stressors for a long period of time. And this is what happens in today's world. Sometimes we have to be in a fight or flight situation. And when we have a healthy body that can respond to those situations, that's great. But what often happens is, because we are under a constant stress in today's world, by just trying to work to pay the bills, and maybe our diet's not so hot and we're not sleeping so hot, and maybe we have other things going on with our body. We're fighting viruses, infections, and maybe we're on prescription medications. All these things become stressors. And if we live in a situation where our bodies are constantly under stress, we basically wear our body's natural ability to deal with stress out. We wear that system out and we get into an exhaustion stage. Another term for this is adrenal fatigue. And so there really are two types of stressors. There are external stressors and internal stressors. So external stressors are just fear and anxiety and maybe musculoskeletal pain and structural problems, all these things that make us feel stress and react to stress and overthink things and maybe fixate on things. And then we have internal stressors, and internal stressors are bacterial infections, viral infections, poor diets, toxic overload, things of that nature. So how do we measure stress, particularly internal stress? Or how do we measure both internal and external stressors' effects on our body? I'm going to talk about a few of those tests. One of them is what's called a blood pressure test. Quite simply, you lay down for 5 minutes, allow your body to get in a restful state. You take your blood pressure, and then you stand up and retake your blood pressure. Now, normally, if your body is operating properly, when you compare your laying down blood pressure to your standing systolic number, which is the top number on your blood pressure, should raise 10 to 20 millimeters of mercury. If it doesn't, if it's less than 10 or even the same or lower, that indicates that your body is under stress, under an adrenal stress, or in an exhaustion phase of stress. It's not able to operate properly. The second test is what's called an iris test. This test is performed by going into a dark room, which allows the pupils to dilate. You then come in with a pin light and flash that light in somebody's eyes. Now, the normal response of your iris to bright light, especially when it's open, is to contract or constrict. If you are under adrenal stress, the iris, when it contracts, will not stay contracted. It should stay contracted for 30 seconds. If it contracts and then bounces open and kind of goes back and forth, that's another sign of adrenal stress, or proves that your body is in the exhaustion stage of the general adaptation syndrome. Other ways we can measure stress and the effects of stress on the body are through blood and saliva testing. We can measure cortisol levels. One of the tests that we run in this office is an adrenal profile where we're measuring cortisol in the morning, in the noon, in the afternoon, and the evening. Normally, cortisol in a healthy person should be high in the morning, and it should just taper down as the day goes on. Of course, if the body is a healthy body and it is doing what it's supposed to do and it has to deal with a stressful situation, that will make those cortisol levels fluctuate depending on what's going on in the day. But we always tell a patient to take this test in a day where they're relaxed, they don't have anything going on, and in those circumstances we should see nice high cortisol levels in the morning, and they should taper down as the evening goes on. So we can evaluate those levels with these lab tests, and if we see really low levels in the morning, or we see maybe some spikes in the afternoon or spikes in the evening, and then we can get a cortisol sum. We look at the total amount of cortisol in the body. If those numbers are low and we see these abnormal graphs of cortisol, then we can further diagnose a person with adrenal fatigue. So when we talk about adrenal fatigue, we're really talking about three organs that work in concert. It's the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. They call it the HPA axis. When the body is under stress and increased cortisol has been running through the body, and then the body loses its ability to do that, a variety of things happen. And I don't want to get too technical. I'm going to try and keep it simple. But basically, when this system is out of balance, you get a decreased ability to regulate your blood sugar levels. You get a decrease in the integrity of what's called the mucosal barrier, so your digestive system starts to suffer. It weakens your immune system. It messes with your sleep cycle. So then you lose the ability to heal properly. So your nerves aren't healing properly. Your muscle tissue is not healing properly. Your bones not healing properly. All these things that are supposed to happen when we sleep. Sleep is really for the body to heal. So if stress is disrupting all these normal processes and you're not sleeping properly, basically the body begins to break down. You also get decreased immune function, decreased endocrine function, so you can have imbalances in your natural hormones. You can have thyroid imbalances. All types of things can happen. So how do we treat these types of things in our office? Well, this takes me back to talking about the triad of health, the structural part of our health, the nutritional part of our health, and then the emotional, spiritual part of our health. So structurally, the way we treat people in our office is through chiropractic and corrective exercise. We want to make sure the body is as balanced and as functioning as it can be. And we use exercise, and especially if somebody's stressed, we have to make sure we're not doing too much exercise. So we have ways to measure what type of exercise program somebody should be on to make sure that they're building up their body and not breaking it down. So that's how we deal with it structurally. Diet, nutrition. We use blood testing, saliva testing, hair analysis to evaluate whether or not somebody is under stress, or whether or not they're out of balance in any other aspects of their health. And by using these tests, we can objectively put somebody on a nutritional protocol of proper diet and nutritional supplements. And we can use those tests to establish where somebody is and to retest to make sure that the body is healing and the body's responding to the things that we are giving it. And then the last thing is stress management. Sometimes you just have to counsel people on ways to decrease some of the external stressors they're experiencing in their life. Now, these all three work together, and obviously a lot of times people are just stressed because they feel lousy. And once we can get them healthy and get them exercising properly and get their structure aligned, then a lot of times that emotional stress will decrease along the way. Another way that we measure stress, and I really use this with people who are under exercise programs, is to check your resting pulse rate. I tell people to do this first thing in the morning when they wake up. You want to just take your pulse, count your pulse over a minute, find out what it is. Once you've established that, and it takes a good week to kind of get an average, but let's just say your average resting pulse rate is 60 beats per minute. That becomes your standard by which you can measure your stress on any given day. So let's say that you are feeling good, you're eating right, doing everything properly, and you're exercising regularly, but you wake up and normally your resting pulse rate should be 60, and you wake up one particular morning and it's 75. Well, that's an indication that your body is under some sort of stress. Maybe it's fighting a cold or something's happening. That would be one way to decide whether or not you should work out that day. Maybe you had a rather intense workout plan that day. If you check your resting pulse rate and it's high, then you need to change your workout for that day. You can adjust your workout depending on what your body's telling you. So we need to learn how to listen to our body, and that's a real simple way to listen to it to decide what you should do so that you don't further stress your body. Sometimes you need to just back down a little bit, give your body a chance to heal or fight whatever it's dealing with. All right, so I hope that gives you a little bit better understanding of stress and how it affects the body and how we treat patients who are having stress adversely affect their health in our office. And I want to end this session with a quote by Thomas Edison that I love. This is a quote that really describes what we do in our office and how we approach holistic health. So the quote says, "The doctor of the future will prescribe no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." Thomas Edison. So thank you very much. If anybody has any health concerns and they're looking for answers, please contact our office. Go to our website. There's a lot of videos and articles you can read to educate yourself. And if you need further help, we are here for you. Thanks for listening, and until next time, yours in health, Dr. Bradley.